What is up, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of the Father Dynasty Podcast. I'm your fatherly host, Chu, here in the manhole, here to talk fatherhood, fantasy football, and everything in between. And with me today are some very special guests, co-hosts of the Delaware Dynasty Boys podcast, and content creators over at RPO Football and Yards Per Fantasy. Check these guys out on Twitter at FFChalmers and at FFDeli. Stephen Chalmers and Ryan Odell. How are we doing, fellas?
I'm good, buddy, man. Excited to be here. Appreciate you having us on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to be here. Love any opportunity to get with any other content creators. So happy to be on the show. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And so I guess we're a few days removed. You guys finally settled in after, Thanksgiving. I'm sure you probably still have some leftovers. Looking ahead to some Cyber Monday deals.
Yeah.
Just are you calmed down yet after the excitement?
Well, it was a good holiday, man. In my job, my line of work, I don't always get to go home and see my family every single night. So it was nice to be able to do that, hang out, just catch up and talk to family that you don't see all the time. The food was delicious as always. Now we're going to go shopping tomorrow, me and my wife.
There you go.
Would you miss it on Black Friday? So now I got to go salvage what you can.
I didn't get to go out on Black Friday.
Yeah, no, I went through the trenches. I work in a grocery store in the produce department, so I was going through the trenches all the way leading up to Thanksgiving, so I'm just glad it's over with. But other than that, yeah, nice to see family. Food was great, per usual.
Nice. I sometimes do a keep trade cut for my guests on here, but one that I always do, I am a big movie fan. I'm sure not a classy one with some of the movies that I like, as my wife says that I enjoy that stupid humor. But other than that, so in our basement of our house, so my wife and I have kind of reclaimed it from our son, so now it's actually our place to hang out, play darts, pool, whatever. And her idea for decorating it was actually putting up movie posters. And we got to pick, it was 7 total. That's kind of what fit on the wall. I got 4. I could have taken all 7. I just kept rattling them off, but I was reduced to 4. And so my 4 that I picked were Anchorman, Boondock Saints, Goldfinger, and Jaws. And then her 3 that she picked, a little different: Pretty Woman, Mean Girls, and Harry Potter. Deathly Hallows, of course.
Deathly Hallows.
Good choice. Good choice.
The poster looks very cool. And so if each of you guys had a 3 poster, kind of a little trio to put up on a wall, what would be your 3?
Good, Ryan.
Oh, thanks. So the way I kind of interpreted this in the call was more so like favorite movies, but 2 of these hold up as posters. So I have Wolf of Wall Street, just one of my all-time movies. It's an awesome movie poster. And then Forrest Gump, which is another all-timer for me. Just a classic in my mind. And then the other one that I had, ties in kind of nice to this podcast, After Sun. If anybody's not seen that movie, it's a harrowing reminder of the time you have with your family.
Great movie.
Something to definitely check out.
Nice.
Great movie.
I like it.
I had Wolf of Wall Street on my mind, but I took it different because I knew Ryan was going to say Wolf of Wall Street. I went with Remember the Titans, one of my all-time classic favorite movies. Sick movie poster, by the way, if anybody's ever seen the movie poster. Then we went with Top Gun. Not even a question. Top Gun, classic. And then I know a lot of people are going to say this at the original one. I like Godfather 2. Godfather 2 is one of my favorite movies of all time, so I went with Godfather 2.
I like it, yeah. I will say, I think that's the first Wolf of Wall Street I've had on the podcast, which is pretty surprising because, I mean, aside from it being a great movie, I have seen the poster, and I feel like that's a pretty well-known one. You got that's a solid one. I'm almost disappointed that all of my other guests have not picked that. And yeah, Remember the Titans. It's that's been a staple. I think when I ask people and they try to balance it, like, all right, well, I have to have a funny one, I have to have like a sports one, and of course, Remember the Titans being a pretty prominent one too.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I do hate the fact that Ryan's never seen the movie as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. This is
honestly, it's the point where I'm refusing to watch it just to piss Steven off.
So, like, when I call Trevor Lawrence Sunshine, he doesn't understand why.
Sunshine. Oh man, what a movie.
Sunshine.
I just thought it was because he had long blonde hair.
It
right?
is. That's the reason. But you got
That's all I need to know, right?
no. But you have to watch it.
I will say just a bit of trivia. So I live in Southwest Virginia, and so the high school I went to, one of the gym teachers who I can't remember how old he is now, but he apparently played against that team, like in the movie The Remember
That's
Titans. He
awesome.
played against that team. They
Wow.
of course got whooped, but I guess it's a nice claim to
Yeah,
fame.
that is pretty cool. Ryan, your dad.
If you're not, that's still pretty cool to say.
Yeah, your dad's from
Yeah.
that area as well, right, Ryan?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Where from?
He's in a little town, Martinsville, Virginia. That's where he grew up in.
I'll say I'm in Roanoke. That's
Oh, really? Wow.
yeah.
I used to live in Roanoke when I was like 5.
Also,
Dude,
before
small world.
Yeah,
I'm
for
a
real.
big American Horror Story fan, so like my Roanoke nightmare is, yeah, you know, what I mean, that's a season that bases out of Virginia. Is it as creepy as what people say?
Dude, Roanoke's a great place,
That's what
honestly.
I've heard, though.
It's been. I went back recently. It's a growing city nowadays.
Yeah, it's a nice kind of in between of like, I'm shocked the amount of people that I think like, you know, if you're going up and down like 81, like you are aware of Roanoke if you've never been to there, but they've definitely built it up a good amount for, you know, certain areas probably more than others,
Right.
but between Roanoke and Salem, which is kind of all kind of one thing almost. Although I know Salemites like to not claim Roanoke as their own, but yeah, but awesome. Well, well, jumping into a couple of fatherhood questions, and Ryan, I do not expect you to sit there silently.
I won't be. Trust me.
All right. So what would you say, Stephen, is the best part about parenting? I know you've got your 2-year-old girl, and she is sweet, nothing like you, all that kind of stuff, right?
Just a little backdrop on my story. My daughter Hannah is a preemie baby. She was born at 34 weeks. So you have a lot of when I say this, answer this question, you have a lot of like worry, especially at 34 weeks when my daughter was born. Whether it be developmental issues physically, with her speech, you know, things like that. Just watching her grow. I mean, we never had any worry. I mean, she blossomed into this awesome child. Everything developmentally was on point. I get to watch her grow in her language. I get to watch her personality grow. I get to watch her develop friendships at school. It's just been a very rewarding time for me and my wife. She's the best. I couldn't ask for anything better.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. Whenever I mean, at this point in my life, I was kind of one of the earlier of my friends to have a kid, but you know, within like a couple of years, everybody else started, and most of it was people would be asking like, hey, you know, like, yeah, what's it like? Which, aside from trying to give some incredibly long, you know, thesis of explaining it, I'm like, it is the most rewarding and frustrating thing you will ever experience in your life.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Your sleep schedule sucks after that too.
100%. Yeah. Let's see. I think it was within the last like month. My wife and I, we had our son was being watched. Let's see. So we also have 3 dogs and a cat. So
Wow.
The house is never empty, but within the last month, we actually had a time where we boarded the dogs. The cat, she's fine. She deals with herself. And then our son was having a sleepover at my mom's house. So we actually slept until like 9:15.
That's nice.
And that hasn't happened in years.
That's nice.
So it was very bizarre. I'm like, it's the sun's up. We probably should get up, right? So, but yeah, very weird. But so yeah, I think you kind of touched on it a little bit. But what would you say is maybe the more challenging part about parenting?
I think the challenging part of this is like, as you and your wife build this life together, and you bring this little miracle into the world. This little miracle develops into their own person, and that own person takes pieces of you and takes pieces of their mom, and those pieces can frustrate you at times for sure. I'm a very alpha type personality, very outspoken, you know what I mean, just things like that. And that's definitely my daughter. She's very headstrong. You can see it even at how young she is. And at times when she acts like me, it can frustrate you at times as well.
Yeah, it's funny when depending on your level of awareness, if you have those moments where it's like, where did that Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely do that all the time.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So well, I mean, looking at all that, having the 2-year-old and the ups and the downs and the sleepless nights and all that, what would you say is kind of a piece of advice for future parents out there? Whether it be something to do, something not to do. Ryan is anxiously awaiting for this piece of advice.
So like with how close I am with Ryan and his fiance Megan, I have no worries here. They're going to be great parents. The biggest question that always comes to me is, how do I know I'm ready for parenthood? And to be honest with you, you're never ready. You can read all these books, you can ask for any advice, but it doesn't matter, because the minute that you get to hold that little girl, little boy for the first time, you just instantly know. Your instincts kick in and things like that, and you're just going to be able to make the right decision. I know Megan, how responsible you are. You know what I mean, how loving you guys are. I know you say you're scared, but there's nothing to be scared of, man. You guys are going to be great parents.
Scared is not even the word. I would go more towards terrified.
You're going to be fine, man. Like I said, everything's out the window when you hold that little boy or little girl for the first time.
Everybody says that. And, like, we're getting to that age where, like, we're kind of shooting for, like, 30 when we start, like, actually trying and all that. I'll never be ready. I am very much responsible, but just, like, having the responsibility of a child for 18 plus years is scary to me. I mean, you're responsible for, like, everything, their health, well-being, safety, everything down the line. I never think I'll be ready, but you keep telling me once I have it, instincts will kick in. I'm really trusting you on that one.
You will. It will. I promise you.
You get that late night call and be like, you told me. Like, hey, you're just tired.
I'm just telling you, man.
You haven't slept in 3 days.
Don't
it's
call
all
me
right.
at 3:30. Don't call me at 3:30 when your child gets up in the middle of the night for a bottle feeding. Don't call me. I'm going to tell you I told you so.
He's going to talk sleepers. He'd be like, look, I'm up. Let's just talk about it right now.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But yeah, man, I mean, I'm going to spin the question back. Let me ask you, what's the biggest advice that you have for future fathers, future mothers?
Yeah, I mean, that piece is very true. That, I mean, you're never you can try and get your ducks in a row of like, all right, I feel like, the house is situated. I feel like we're in a steady spot work-wise, or, if you feel like I don't know, some people, they want to accomplish certain things in like the work career because they might know it might have to take a slight backseat or something with, a kid in the house. But I don't know. At a certain point, you need to kind of appreciate as things are happening, kind of live in the moment, because I know it can be exhausting. And then, like, when people talk about a year flies by, years have flown by for me plenty of time,
Sure.
like plenty of times in my life. But when you have a kid, every single year flies by.
Mm-hmm.
And I've yet to have one where it's like, no, that seemed like it took the appropriate amount of time. Like every single one. And it's usually all in the frame of reference of like things related to my son, of like, oh yeah, I can't believe 3 months ago this or whatever. But
yeah, it's like,
just
I do agree
appreciate
with you.
those moments.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. Every milestone that my daughter hit, it was like, I looked back, it's like I guess when I said she was premature, she was born at 4 pounds 11 ounces. I mean, literally, I could fit her in the palm of my hand. And now I look back, I've seen her take her first steps. I've seen her crawl. I've seen her roll over. I've seen her say her first words. I've seen her be able to put sentences together. I've seen her eat solid food for the first time. These milestones that will stick with me for the rest of my life, like that, instantly just flew by. I remember her first day of preschool or daycare, preschool, and it's going way too fast, man.
Oh yeah. So, well, speaking of, things just flying by and trying to fit in everything, in terms of like, creating content, and certainly, balancing your own schedules with whether it be your kid, your family, your other job, that sort of thing. How do you guys find that time to balance, whether you have like, your set schedule of what you're doing each week, having like, live streams, or having the time to set aside to write, or that sort of thing. How do you guys try to balance all of that?
Brian, I'll let you take this one, buddy.
I bet. So I'm sure Steven's answer is going to be a little bit more complicated than mine, but because he works insane hours. But for me, I work a 40-hour job in a grocery store. Most of the time I'm 7 to 3. So once I'm off work, me and Steven are both very passionate about fantasy football. It takes up an obscene amount of my life. So like, I kind of already have the knowledge up here. I might as well put it out to the people. So once 3 o'clock hits, I'm ready to roll for anything fantasy football. And then me and Steve are both blessed to have Tuesdays off. We have a shared day off, so we go every Tuesday, every week, bearing anything tragic happens. Yeah, I think it's nice. Just like overall, just passion for fantasy football is kind of like, even if I have like an hour out of my day, see if Steven can get on and do something. Same thing with writing.
Nice.
Yeah, when it comes to this, like, me and Ryan have been playing fantasy football for well over 16 plus years. It's not only something that we're good at, it's something that we're passionate about. We've been able to adapt over the years of fantasy football as well. And when I say that, I mean the league changes. You know, you got 10-man leagues, 12-man leagues. Non-PPR used to be for the old heads. Now we with the PPR. Now we're playing super flex. We've always been able to adapt well. We've always been able to transition to whatever situation was thrown our way. And we were so passionate about it that 2 years ago we took a leap of faith and we started this podcast when no one really supported us outside of like my wife, his fiance, and like my parents. And to see the growth that we've had from where we started to now, and to get to work with the people that we do, and to have the consistent following of people that come in and talk with us every week, it makes it all worth it. All worth it. My wife says I'm too invested in fantasy football at times.
Same, brother.
And that's fine. But she understands that this is a dream. She understands that to make it in this industry takes a lot of work and a lot of preparatory, a lot of work and a lot of prep. We talk football every day. Every day we talk football. And that helps with our writing. We write every Monday on our waiver wire articles, and it makes it really easy because the conversations just flow. With me and him, they've always been there. It just makes it easy.
Yeah, that seems like the biggest thing, especially if it's whenever you're having, someone else, whether it be like a consistent co-host that you're starting something with or someone you interact with that, you have them on or you have them contribute or whatever, is you're almost writing these things and creating these episodes in a group text or in like hanging, like it just kind of forms itself sometimes. I know there's plenty of times where you have to really script something out and, it's for a specific purpose, but, I think of just the amount of times that it's having a discussion about like player values or talking about just certain dynamics in like the NFL and how it relates to fantasy football, where it's kind of just like you may talk about it in a group text and then like within a month you see like a bunch of other like channels or podcasts talk about it. You're like, yeah, I guess this is kind of like a relevant thing that, it is applicable and everybody's kind of going through the same thing. Yep. So yeah, it's very cool to, do something, play something like fantasy football for this long and see the changes. And I used to think, is it PPR or non-PPR? That's the only thing that exists in my mind. So just tell me that, and then we'll go from there. And just to think what it is now. I mean, even I only started playing Dynasty in 2018, and to think of even from then until now, some of the stuff that's changed is crazy. So
yeah, I think I was on the Dynasty scene. I think I jumped in 2016 is when I joined my first Dynasty league, and that was the first ever interaction I've ever had with Superflex style formats. And from there, not only do me and Ryan mesh well, just due to the fact that, we've known each other for so long. Believe it or not, me and Ryan actually used to not like each other at all.
Well, I have a home league that I've had going. This next year will be our 10th year in it.
11.
11. Me and Steven are always so competitive in it. We're almost always at the top. So we used to like really, really go against each other. Mm-hmm. Just because like there's a bitter rivalry, and so we kind of just like, you know what, like we're both really good at this. Yeah. Like why don't we just connect through our little rivalry, and then we kind of made it out the rivalry, and now yeah, man. It's been really fun to see the transitions and the changes in the industry, and it's just been a wild ride, man. And we have nobody else to thank except for each other, our fans, and the platforms that allow us to go every week, man. I shout out to Leo over at RPO and Alex over at Yards Per. They're the best, man. I couldn't ask for anything better.
Nice. Well, I know you're kind of touching on it a little bit. What part of that content creation do you feel like you've grown the most this season? I know we're not quite through it yet, but I'm sure there's plenty of things you probably tried to implement or, change, or you feel like there's been growth in the, your viewer base, that sort of thing.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think my most improved area is my writing. This is the first that I've ever dabbled in the writing scene, and I've had a lot of fun doing it. Like, I mean, I'm still not the best like when it comes to wordplay and obviously like certain situational grammar, things like that. Like, obviously, there's things that we struggle with when it comes to the writing, but just trying to connect with a whole outlook and community and things like that, and like to be able to like pinpoint things that I see every week when I watch football and give them that knowledge that may help them throughout the year. I mean, a waiver wire article where we've only used 2 players in our waiver wire article twice. Every other player has been different, and that's something that I can say. We're very original in the way that we produce our content and put our content out. So I've been very, very blessed to say that writing has been my biggest growth.
Nice. Say, Ryan.
Oh, seriously, I thought I was going to have to go off the top because I thought you were going to take my answer, which like wasn't really presented to us until we joined Yards Apart with like the live shows. But I think our biggest thing is our live show presence, being able to connect with the fans and make that bond with them live in time. We've came a long way. We, like you Steven said, we used to put YouTube videos up and hope they got 10 views. And now we have 15, 20, 30 people watching us live. And we're still growing. Just the interactions between like the fans and anybody that has questions. It's what we started for. It's the whole reason we started doing this. So just the live streaming aspect of everything. And obviously for me, I'm like very high anxiety. Like the whole podcast thing was so foreign to me at first. Just camera presence and like being able to, it sounds weird, but speak fluently through a podcast without breaking anything up was tough for me. And that's like, I guess, personal growth. It's just camera presence and all that stuff.
No, I'm 100% with you. I mean, when I started my podcast, that was back when it was, video podcast existed at the time, but I just started on Anchor and just kicked it out to, Spotify and wherever else. And that was on my I don't even think AirPods were out. I don't know. I had just, my own little, there was no upgrade to anything. It was just, what do I currently have? You could hear the echo. You could probably hear my son crying in the background. Like, it was just, let me do this thing. And that was one big thing where I don't consider myself a tremendously creative person, but I guess for everybody, it kind of can maybe pop up in different ways, different avenues.
Yeah.
But when I started it, I think I even told my wife, I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing this. And it was kind of just like, you should do it. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't like to hear the sound of my own voice. So I don't really think it makes much sense that I would voluntarily talk for an hour per week and plan everything out or whatever. But I feel like that coupled with kind of like what you were saying about the writing too, I've never been a great writer necessarily, but I feel like what I've learned from reading, people across a bunch of different sites is whether they started in writing, whether that was their passion to start, it seems like it's a great way to, if you actually have a podcast or some sort of other medium, it kind of helps you in that too. So it kind of helps you kind of flex that muscle, and everybody has their own voice and their own kind of tone. Right. So like there might be someone here, like you read their articles each week and it's just because you like the way they present the information. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, I want to give another thing too. Like iron sharpens iron, to be honest. So like when you work with such great people in this industry, man, I mean, when it comes to our RPO side, Leo McNeely is the number one IDP ranker in the game. No question, no hands down question about it. And then him and our buddy Justin, call them tackle box props. They're the best at what they do, and their level of writing is to a level that I would love to be at. And then on the yards per side, you have Coach Bruce and Brett Pape, Alex Johnson, Zach Schultz, all these guys. Their podcasts hit numbers that are great numbers, and it's just like, man, they're that good. I want to be that good. And they bring the best out of us, and it's just been a lot of fun, man. I've enjoyed every second of it.
That's awesome. And it's a good community too. I mean, I feel like, well, I'm sure there's some bad eggs. I feel like the number of, fantasy football creators, I mean, whether it's writing, whether it's, video podcast, whether it's whatever it may be, I feel like there's a lot of people that are pretty willing to, offer a hand,
Sure.
whether it's on equipment, whether it's on writing style, whether it's on any piece of it, everyone at some point has been at the beginning of it and wishing that someone else would, answer this one question or give them this one resource. So it's definitely a good community.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've met a lot of cool people, man.
So this is something I like to ask. It used to be, what would you recommend to up and coming content creators? But perhaps more importantly, what would you recommend not to do for up and coming content creators? And I can start with you, Ryan.
Oh yeah. So I guess the number one thing that we've kind of learned, and kind of the whole reason why we started this, it's like, don't be afraid to like have your own hot takes, have your own like opinions. So like fantasy football community, a lot of the top guys, we kind of follow them, right? But if you're like looking to really grow your podcast and you're saying the same things that other guys are saying, what's stopping them to just going back to them in the first place? So like kind of pave your own way, have your own opinions. And if you're right, going to come back to you as opposed to some of the bigger guys that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Like that's the whole reason me and Steve started this, and it's worked out for us pretty well. We've grown a lot since, but yeah, just anybody out there, if you're just starting out, do your own research, find your little path, find your guys and ride with them through, man. And if you're wrong, that's okay. It's okay to be wrong. It's not going to make or break you as a content creator if you're wrong.
I'm wrong every year.
Yeah, I completely.
But I'm right a lot every year too. So that's the best part about it.
Right.
My biggest thing is, man, is don't just be the guy who is one-sided when it comes to the review of a player. Do not just be the stat analyst guy. A lot of people forget why they love this game. Football is a game that's been great to me. It's near and dear to my heart. Same with Ryan. To just sit back and be able to turn on College Game Day on Saturday and watch these guys play, and just to be able to see the amazing things they do on tape and to be able to see them do it live, or the same thing on Sundays, whether you have YouTube TV and you can watch 16 games at one time, or you know what I mean? Yeah, same thing. YouTube TV is a great thing. Love YouTube TV. People look too much at the box score analytics types of things. Like, there are things that you miss when it comes to scouting players outside of the box score, outside of the analyst stuff. I mean, take a look. Look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. We would have missed heavily on Amon-Ra St. Brown if we were just doing box score analytics out of USC. Look at Kamara, who fell to the fourth round out of Alabama, Tennessee, whatever school you want to peg him to. I mean, just things like that. Like, don't be afraid to go the extra mile in your research and in your deep dive into these players, man. I see a lot of people that like tend to slack in that area, and it kind of like upsets me.
Well, no, and I think kind of when you pair both of those answers, if you think about the extra mile that you go to kind of look at these players in whatever evaluation style you have, that can maybe help you lead to, being that different content creator to say, I believe in this guy because X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And then that next year, you're looking back and being like, yeah, that's what I thought he could be. That's exactly what it is. So,
right.
And the more research you're doing too, the more you have to compare against. Right. So when you have, as there's more players coming out, as there's more people getting opportunities in football, you get to, it's like, this reminds me a lot of this guy. He has a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I feel like people always like to hear that kind of stuff when they are kind of relating to players. It's always, within the last year or two, like, who does this make me think of? And I feel like people kind of connect and can really understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, the biggest thing that helped us too, I've never played a C2C format style football when it comes to a league. And man, I have been scouting players from schools that I've never heard of. And I'm just like, oh my God, this has brought a whole new level of love for football for me, because I mean, players come out all the time from schools that we've never heard of. You know what I mean? And it's just awesome. And it's just added so much more fun to this process for me. And I'm assuming Ryan will say the same thing. it's been a lot of fun, man. I've had a blast with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love to hear that. It's for everybody that I feel like as you're growing a fan base, a following, whatever you want to call it, the more true to yourself, and however you choose to do it, you put it all out there, and you kind of just people can kind of take it at face value, and people are critical, people may be more supportive, but that's kind of how you build a following, is to kind of put it out there, and over time you show that you've started a process a certain way, and I'm sure over the years you refine it and you kind of fine tune it, but the game never stops. The game never stops evolving, and that is, I guess, also why as content creators, you can never stop trying to sharpen that iron, I guess, as you would say. So
Absolutely.
But,
no, sir.
So, well, speaking of sharpening iron, Scott Fishbowl, 13 this year. I know that Ryan, I know you narrowly missed the playoffs, and Steven, it looks like you are already primed to go ahead, and I will be bounced in the first round, it looks like, unless Justin Herbert has, I don't even know what he needs to do, but I can't think of it right now, so it's pretty ridiculous. So I'm likely out. But so what did how did you guys fare this year in Scott Fishbowl? I'm sure there was you look back at your draft, and what do you think about your construction and your process, and maybe what do you kind of carry to next year in doing that?
First thing I want to say, man, I just want to, if for any reason he does hear this, man, I just want to say, Scott Fish, we appreciate the opportunity to be first-time members in the Scott Fish Bowl. To be able to help out such a great organization, and for a great cause, just to continue in a fantasy football mindset, was something that I think is so cool. On top of that, the Warrior Bowl does a great job as well. So I do want to, things like that. These organizations that help out kids through fantasy football is something that is just an amazing thing. I love it.
Absolutely.
When it came to roster construction, we both locked in early picks. I wanted a high upside player with a safe floor. And obviously, I'm leaning towards the selection of Josh Allen here, just due to the fact that I'm talking about heavy reliance on a passing volume. Obviously, we know we're talking about heavy reliance with the rushing game as well. And I thought he was the safest pick. Now, I didn't expect to see 13 interceptions before week 12, but here we are. But other than that, I mean, he's been great. He's the number one QB in fantasy this year again. The pick was a pretty easy pick for me, and then the process, it was an easy process just due to the fact of running backs and how heavily utilized they were in scoring formats. Unfortunately, injuries hurt me in the running back department. Amongst Dobbins going down week 1, I missed JT for 4 weeks. I've got the abysmal side of Najee here. But it's been a lot of fun, man. I've had a blast with it.
Yeah, if I can go back, I'd do my draft completely different. It's sadly the Scott Fish team is one of my worst teams of the year. Don't love, but just with the scoring, it's so foreign to me. My first Scott Fish, they put heavy emphasis on tight ends, quarterbacks, and running backs. I'm typically a wide receiver guy between the two of us, and I made the mistake of trying to go running back heavy. I also kind of wish I took Daniel Jones in the 3rd round. I kind of wish I would have waited on my QB2 and hammered out more position players. Not too proud of my Scott Fish draft. I did what I could with it. I missed by about 200 spots. But like I said, heavy reliance. I got Breece Hall late, thinking, him and Aaron Rodgers are going to ball this year. Aaron Rodgers goes down to 4 plays into the season. And the tough thing about Scott Fish, as much as I love the experience that comes with it, no trading, your roster locked in really, really hurts.
Yeah, that's the very. I mean, I know each year the scoring is different, but no matter what the scoring and everything is, yeah, the fact that it's it matters very much how you draft this team up front, because aside from hoping to get a couple of waiver wire ads when you really need them, it's not too often that you can likely get an upgrade a significant one off of the waiver wire. So it's likely whoever you've got in the draft is likely who you're stuck with. And yeah, especially, as the injuries mount, injuries or, off weeks or suspensions or anything that may pop up, you're left to kind of wade through it and just hope that your average score is high enough, or you of course you get I think it was 13 wins, I want to say, to get in the playoffs. And honestly, even then, like I said, I'm about to get bounced out. Like, I feel like I was just limping into the playoffs off of just some absurd weeks from players of like, oh wow, I can't believe Deonta Foreman did that, or like just a lot of those types of weeks where it's like things just happen the right way, but at some point it does catch up.
Right.
But yeah, no, I love what they do, for fantasy cares and getting a chance to, of course, for people who play fantasy football and whatever, redraft, dynasty, anything like that, to do another league, and certainly to do it in this way, to kind of connect with so many people, some they may know, some they may not. I feel like it speaks to the kind of the nature of what I feel like a lot of the fantasy football community is to come together and do something like this.
Absolutely.
So it's very cool. But yeah, we'll Stephen, wish you the best in the rest of Scott Fishbowl, and Ryan and I will we'll go back to the drawing board. We're going to refine our draft strategy, and we're coming for the playoffs next year. I know.
You know what's crazy, man?
Oh.
I also took Daniel Jones in the 3rd round, so like it was just value that fell to me in our draft as well. Keenan Allen in the 6th round has been a monster. For me. Tank Dell was my first waiver wire priority when waivers flew. I got Tank Dell. Christian Kirk's been good. Freiermuth, unfortunately, has been hurt all year, so it's been rough there. But Josh Allen, man, put me on his back. He carried me. Winter Soldier carried me.
That's right. Well, fellas, I appreciate you coming on, talking a little fatherhood, little content creation, little Scott Fishbowl. But so I'll give each of you the chance to give yourself some plugs. Got a nice quote you want to leave everybody with. So I say, go ahead, Stephen.
Well, everybody, when we talked about how we took this leap 2 years ago, this quote's always stuck with me. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. When Ryan and I jumped into this, it wasn't with a whole lot of support. And it was a lot of negative feedback from a lot of people that didn't think we could make it at all. And here we are today. If you have the desire to do something like this, and you want to change, and you want to make a difference, and you want to bring your knowledge to the forefront, do it. Don't be afraid to make that leap.
100%.
All right, you got out the quote. I guess I'll be the shameless plug. But yeah, no, me and Steven, we run the Delaware Dynasty Boys podcast. Every week we're live on RPO football and on Yards Per. We typically go on Tuesdays at 8:30, and then try to sneak in a show for Start Sit at 8:30 as well on Saturday. Yeah, just check us out anytime. We'd love to have you on. That's about all I got.
Love it. No, well, thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to catching up soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having us on.